Made in China, buddy.
There we go.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I think so, but now my damn... Now my damn face cam. Bro, I don't know what happened. Hold on, my face cam ain't on. This sucks. Guess that's what happens when you don't run the show for so long.
I mean, yeah, just going live, man. Everything has to line up perfect. It's hard to do, I would imagine.
Yep. Alright, hold on. Let's see. Yeah, I think what happened, I unplugged my damn, what you call it, on accident. And, there we go. Alright, now we're good. Alright, y'all. So, as I was saying, we got Paul on the line from KDP, Kentucky Dogman Project, my brother, my partner, and sorry about the technical difficulties, though. We got it worked out. So we're going to talk about some good stuff today, and like I said, we have a special surprise for y'all, and, you know, for y'all to tune in to see what that surprise is we have a very, very special guest, a guest that has had an encounter with a dogman before, and most of you may have heard it. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to y'all Kyle from Dogman Encounters Radio, episode 263. How's it going, Kyle?
That's going all right.
That's good, man. That's good. So, I'm going to start out. I'm going to ask Paul this question, and then I'm going to ask Kyle the same question. Paul, tell us everything you know about the Daniel Boone National Forest, the feeling, you know, the terrain. Just try to give us a mental picture of what the Daniel Boone looks like.
The Daniel Boone National Forest it's just full of limestone, granite cliffs, caves, a lot of, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of large deposits all over the country, but in the Daniel Boone or in the state of Kentucky, there's a lot of protruding cliffs, and I mean, the Daniel Boone National Forest is there's really not, from north to south, there's really not a place in there that don't have large boulders, you know, the size of a house, and the terrain is just hilly in some areas, more toward the eastern side, and out toward where Kyle's at, it's more foothills and a little bit of a mix. But I mean, there's limestone and a lot of cliffs and rock throughout the whole area, and it's very thick. The foliage and you know, the tree, it's just very thick in the summertime. I mean, you can only see 20 feet in front of.
Yeah. Yeah, that Man, that really, from what you and I talked about, that really sounds like some pretty rough terrain. I know there's a lot of mountainous terrain, rocky terrain, cliff overhangs, and thick foliage. Um, I know there's a lot of trees. With any national forest, there's going to be a lot of trees. So yeah, man, that forest sounds like it's pretty thick. What's the feeling you get when as soon as you get out of your car in any part of that
I mean,
forest?
sometimes you'll go down there when you get out of the car. It's just, it'll be a light feeling. It won't be that bad. Birds chirping, it'll be on the day. And then sometimes you'll go down there when you get out. It's just, it's dead silent and just very ominous feeling. And you can tell. I would imagine you can tell if something's in the area. Its presence is known in one way or another. So, it's just a very strange place. I agree with Kyle on a lot of things, it's just hanging ground. It's just cursed, whatever you want to call it. It's just something's not right about the place.
Right. Yeah, that most definitely the impression I've got from everything you've told me. It kind of sounds kind of weird. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Daniel Boone? Can you tell us anything about any of the places in the Daniel Boone you've been in?
Well, I know it was once the Cumberland Forest, or the Forest of the Cumberland, and exactly like Paul said, it's ancient ground, and it bleeds into the Appalachian Mountains, and the Appalachian Mountains are the oldest mountains in the United States. They're older than the Rocky Mountains. They've been around a lot longer. And with that being said, it's been more populated than any other place throughout the history of the United States up until now. Mm-hmm. And it's also, like Paul said, certain places you go, you just get a feeling once you step out of your vehicle. You're automatically out of your element.
Right.
And you realize how small that you are in the world that you live in. And there's also an eerie feeling about that makes you feel like, well, anything can happen. Right. And also, exactly like Paul said, some places, whenever you step out of your vehicle, as soon as you get there, you know that you're on tainted ground. And those are the areas that you're definitely in more danger.
Right.
So.
Wow, that definitely sounds like a very dark place. I know in October I know the three of us for sure are gonna get together. I know we're gonna go out to where you had your first encounter, Kyle. Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't been back in there since the day after my first encounter took place. And it's only open October through February.
Right.
Besides that, me and Paul drove up there and I showed him where the gate was and stuff. And, the only way you can get in there right now is by foot travel or on horseback. It's not completely locked off to the public, but there's not going to be any horse travel or foot travel that people are going to go as far as where we intend on going.
Right. And I'm going to ask y'all both this. I don't know if both of y'all know this. I'm pretty sure you do, Kyle, from what you just said. But is there any particular reason why it's only open that part of the forest from October to February?
I'm not sure what the Department of Fish and Wildlife says, and Paul can contest this too. There's certain areas in the Daniel Boone National Forest that are locked away for months on end, and then they open them up for driving during hunting seasons, rifle season for deer hunting and things like that. Mm-hmm. But that's the only time it's open, and that leads into the question that I've always thought about is maybe during those times of the year they feel safer having that road open, knowing that most of the people that are going to be back in there will have a weapon. They're going to be hunting and be protected. That's a theory I've thought about, which it's just a theory.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because, it's just like here in Texas. It's usually, I think Texas is November to February when our hunting season is, and man, we got a lot of hunters and there's a lot of guns going around. So you got to be careful what part of wood you track in. But of course, in Texas, most of all the land here is owned except for the national forest and stuff like that. But yeah, that really makes that's a very interesting theory that you have, and that does make a lot of sense. What are your takes on it, Paul?
I mean, like you said, I believe. I mean, I can't speculate on why they have a gate up or why they do that, but and I just always assumed it was to keep people from going back there and dumping their garbage or whatever. Because people are ruthless, man. Some of these roads I've drove out are just filled with people dumping their garbage and washing machines and stuff over the banks and stuff. Yeah, I mean, people are just disgusting. So that's one, and like you said, to go back in there, because even once you go, it takes a minute to get to the gate, and then once you go past that gate, I think he said it's like what 5-10 miles, Cops?
Yeah, it's a long way back in there. And I mean, just like you said, Paul, I mean, we had conversation where whenever you go out on your field research, your boots on the ground, that you see people out and about in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if it's a place that's definitely got a lot of activity and everything, then and the government has to know about it. That's my theory on it. I'm pretty sure that's everyone's theory on it. That the government has to know about the dog man and Bigfoot and everything else. So, what's the best way to keep people from seeing these things and to lower the amount of encounters that people have might be to keep those areas locked.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. And it's just like down here, they do gate off parts of the Sam Houston for obvious reasons. There's, I believe, actually a part of the Sam Houston right now that they got gated off that I've been told it's because of cryptid activity. But who knows? Who knows? They could gate it off maybe just like they do in the Daniel Boone, open it from October to February, November to February. But, there was an article put out that they did lock part and gate up part of the Sam Houston. So that's not out the realm of possibility that they could be locking it up due to these cryptids. I mean, people have gone missing in the Sam Houston. I'm pretty sure there may be a few that have gone missing in the Daniel Boone. Who knows? But
well, man, that's another thing, man. I don't like when we go down there and people park along on our way into our research area. People park along the road and they go in and hike the trails, and there'll be 15, 20, 30 cars there. Sometimes you can't even park.
right.
And on days like that, we get a lot of activity. We get a lot of great pictures, and there's just a lot of movement going on. And I don't know if it's due to people keeping these things stirred up, or these things coming in to watch people, or I'm not sure what the cause and effect is there, but I just know that when there's a lot of people there, it benefits us as researchers, being down there at that time.
Yeah. I got Tom messaging me right now. I said he can't find the group, so I'm trying to send it to him. All right, Paul. So I know we've been going back and forth here the last couple of months with a whole lot of evidence you've been getting. And what can you tell us? Have you seen any kind of routine with these dogmen the last few months? Have you figured anything out about them other than what we've talked about so far?
I mean, just I had mentioned it before, just in passing while we were sitting here with Kurt. I had mentioned before about the limestone, but I really didn't give it any thought or any attention. And then when I started talking to Kyle on the phone, he brought it up and really shined light on it. But I really believe, because there's not wildlife in the Demon Boone. Yeah, I mean, there's a deer here. I've been down there probably at least 15 times, I would say, and I've seen a deer one time. and they're right as soon as you turn off the road, right near the highway. So I mean, there's just no wildlife there, but yet they seem to be around these large cliffs, these caves every single time I go down there. In the same area. So I mean, I know they're having to travel to hunt. So clearly they're traveling and coming back to that area. So I think I'm with Kyle. I think these large limestone deposits and granite and all that stuff they play a huge role. To what extent I don't know, but I think they play a huge role in what's going on down there in the state of Kentucky altogether.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Kyle, so what are your thoughts on the wildlife there in the Daniel Boone being so scarce? I mean, just like Paul says, it's just there's no wildlife. I know you've been going in there for years, and what are your takes on that? Has it always been like that, or has it dwindled down over years?
Well, we've had several within the last 10 years. We've had, as far as our deer population, everything like that. We've had blue tongue and that deer zombie. Paul probably knows what I'm talking about. That did hurt a lot of the population on our white-tailed deer.
Mm-hmm.
And but within the last 2 years, a record number of white-tailed deer have been taken in the state of Kentucky. But a lot of that wildlife is probably being drawn away from the national forest because there's so many people who have farms and private land that they prepare for wildlife, to draw more wildlife in, to make their hunting easier. And you see a lot more people who have farms who are leasing them out to like Kentucky Whitetail Association and things like that. That's just so all the farmland around the Daniel Boone, they're all trying to draw all the wildlife to them instead of going out to the wildlife. So that can also play a part in it. And like Paul said on the limestone, the old timers have always said that around the limestone deposits, the limestone, off the limestone, when it rains, that limestone releases minerals into the water.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find a lot of your wildlife around limestone deposits. So it's only natural that with any wildlife, there's going to be predators and prey.
Right.
And I think that, like Paul said, everyone wants to focus on cave systems, and there's some truth in that, probably. Absolutely. For these creatures to go unseen by the masses, that could very well be where they're at. But I think the limestone is overlooked. We've talked about it. It's overlooked as to why Kentucky has so much strangeness.
Yeah, I agree. I do believe myself the limestone has something to do with it, and the reason why I believe that is one of my admins lives in Dallas, and he lives in an apartment complex, and behind his apartment complex he has a little stretch of woods, and in the middle of that little stretch of woods is a creek, and he so happened to go out there one night after hearing a howl. I believe it was a howl. And he just started taking random pictures, and lo and behold, man, he ended up catching a picture of a dog man. And the next day he went out and he caught some pretty big prints that were obvious not a dog. So he started doing some research on the area and found that there is a lot of limestone around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So I do believe that does contribute to that. I mean, it only makes sense. And
well, I mean that would really be the only way to find out, is to communicate with other researchers who are in an area where there is other. I don't think it would be a coincidence for 2 or 3 people, researchers to communicate and find out whether or not across this country. I think out in like Montana and places like that, I think they have a lot of Wisconsin. I don't know if they have any or not. I think they have any mountains and stuff. But like I was telling you before, there's 3 seams of limestone that run from Michigan, because I used to work in a limestone mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's 3 seams of limestone that run from up in Michigan down into Mississippi. There's the Tyrone seam, the Camp Nelson seam, and Mississippi seam. And, it runs down to Taylor, Mississippi. I don't know, but I would almost guarantee you that they have a lot of limestone going on. And I've talked to B. Moss about it, and some of the things that she said, it's just wild. It matches up with everything we're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what's making me more and more a believer that the limestone has something to do with it. Now, what's crazy on my property, which I have a lot of activity around my property, of course, everybody knows I'm like a quarter mile from an old sulfur plant. This old sulfur plant was the biggest sulfur mine in the world at one time. And there is still sulfur laying around in them vat fields and over by the big lake behind the reservoir. I mean, you can go out there and there's still big blocks of sulfur, man. And it's, I'm leading to believe myself that maybe that sulfur's got them drawn in for some reason. I know the wildlife there is pretty heavy. Right now it's not, which makes me to believe that whatever that had left the property the last 2-3 weeks has come back, because I haven't had not one hit on my trail camera. And that's very odd. The last 3 weeks I've been getting deer and hogs and everything else, and now it's just nothing. So I do believe sulfur, limestone, whatever else is a mineral, that they either consume it or use it in some kind of way, and I believe that's what's keeping these things around, I really believe that, especially.
Well, I mean, Kentucky's one of the hottest spots in the country for cryptids.
Oh, definitely.
And what's the one thing that Kentucky has that most places don't have, So that's really where I go with it, and what I look at to figure out, what would be causing this state to have. I mean, because I have got some wild things that's not even related to Dogman on camera in the Daniel Boone that's make your hair stand up, a very strange activity.
Right, and the recent pictures you've got, man, it's like I told you, man, y'all got a lot of things going on in that Daniel Boone, man. It's just unreal. It's unreal. I ain't never seen nothing like that, and I've seen a lot of evidence, a lot of pictures, and I ain't never seen nothing like that you got. Nothing like it.
Also, to piggyback off of all this, an animal the size of a dog, man, and you all know as well as I do, if we were to go out and hunt for substantial living, off of the wilderness, and we were to go out and eat deer every single day, we would die, because their protein, they're not going to get a whole lot of fat off of the deer, and
right.
Your body needs fat. Every animal needs fat, and I mean, every animal's different, but also the minerals that they're going to get. They're not going to, a predator's not going to eat a whole lot of vegetation.
Right.
So how could they produce and sustain that type of lifestyle eating proteins, by eating animals and wildlife that have a whole lot of minerals already in their body.
Right.
That are getting those minerals from their environment. The mineral creeks and deposits. And that's why you see a lot more wildlife in those areas. So if they eat a deer that's been drinking out of a mineral deposit someplace, a small creek, and their body's filled with all these different vitamins and everything that they've naturally gotten, then some of that meat that they eat from these animals are going to translate into their own bodies.
Right. And that when we did that round table, Paul, with Al Santaregan, the subject came up on why are these animals, the dogman's so massive? And for one, like you said, they're eating a lot of protein. Protein, builds muscle. That's what feeds muscle. And what's contributing to that too is the mountainous terrain y'all have there in Kentucky. You know, the rock overhangs, you know, dogmen climbing up, you know, rock cliffs, you know, running up and down the valleys, you know, all that contributes to their agility, to their, you know, them being so lean and so muscular, you know. And then on top of that, just building it with lots and lots of protein, eating lean meat like deer, you know, and whatever else they can find, you know. And that's true what you say, Kyle. You know, they're not eating a lot of fat, and they're eating a lot of deer. They're just staying so lean, you know, because
well, Kyle showed me where his second encounter took place, and it's every bit like he said, 60 to 70, 80 feet even maybe. It's straight up. You know, when he said it was straight up, I mean, he means it's straight up and down. If you could give me all day, and I couldn't get up, and that thing went up in what, 10, 15 seconds.
It was fast. It didn't take real long at all. You know,
Yeah.
they're very agile.
Yeah, that's definitely a testament to the agility and the muscle mass and just the strength that they have, because I couldn't get up if I had all day and you held me.
Yeah, and definitely 80 foot, man. That's a good ways up. And and that also attributes to what a lot of the stuff you've been catching, Paul, catching these silhouettes and these faces and heads and bodies up in the tree, 30, 40 foot up. You know, these animals are just so damn agile. It's ridiculous, you know. I mean, especially a part canine to climb a tree like that, you know, it's just crazy. And you know, it's taught me to go into the woods now and not just look at eye level, you know, look down, look up. You know, I'm always looking in the trees, and you know, with the foliage so thick, you just can't see shit, you know. And
Yeah.
it's that's exactly why I want to go up there in October with my thermal, because
Well, I mean, we're dealing with these things are canine, but we're dealing with something that's got opposable thumbs, you know. So,
right.
The typical dog behavior's out. It's just out, you know. That's just, it don't even apply to anything probably that we're doing. Other than looking maybe a little canine-ish, they're really there. They're really not. They're in a league of their own.
Oh, most definitely, man. They're most definitely in a league of their own. I agree.
They're not even a subspecies. They're their own species.
Exactly. And, you know, just to hear some of the stuff that you and I talked about, Kyle, you know, and what you've told me, you know, it's amazing how these creatures just go about moving. You know, the evidence Paul has, you know, saying, you know, man, I was looking right in that spot with my bare eye and couldn't see it, but you catch it on camera, man. That's just, it's so weird, you know, how the naked eye won't pick it up, but the camera will. That's just baffling, you know, because, you know, how many times have you walked in there, Paul? Bunches of times, I'm sure, and, you know, gone in there and not seen nothing with the naked eye and come home, check footage, and you catch, what, 5 or 6 of them in one frame?
Yeah, 20, 30 yards from me.
Yeah, 20, 30 yards, and you can't see them. So that's to me, that tells me they're able to blend in with the foliage and camouflage like nobody's business, and that makes it real hard for us, you know, with a camera, and you know, and I'm sure that's why it takes you so long to review footage, Paul, is for that reason, is that they blend so well. And you know, even when I go out and review footage, you know, it's frame by frame, and just to do a 16-minute video, dude, it'll take me days, like absolutely days. And then to edit it is a few days more. You know, it's crazy, man. It's tedious work, and like you said, we don't do it for the money. We do it to get the truth out there, and you know, people.
You know, I came now to where, you know, I'm really just chasing my tail with the research I'm doing. You know, it's hard to explain, man, because I don't want to just go out in the woods just any old body. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I don't want to get nobody hurt. I can't have that on my conscience. You know what I'm saying? So I know everybody's tough. Everybody's got guns and all that stuff, you know, but we're dealing with something that is unknown. You know, their behavior, their motives. You know, everything about them is just unknown, aside from what they may look like, or you know, I don't think they're all the same. I don't think you can lump all these creatures into one. I think they have different personalities and stuff. I think they have their own lifestyle, I guess you would call it, that don't match anything else that we've ever dealt with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like when I talked to Ode Bear about the Bigfoot subject, not to change the subject, but, you know, like he said, type 4 and the Janoskwa type Bigfoot, man, are your most violent Bigfoot. You know, type 1, 2, and 3s are, you know, your Patty, Gimlin, and your skunk apes and stuff like that. And, you know, these dogmen, I do believe from one dogman to the next, you do not know what you're going to encounter, man. And, you know, Kyle is living proof of that, you know. Kyle is living proof of that. And, you know, from one encounter to the next, it just went from chaos to, like, it didn't want to have nothing to do with him in the second encounter. So, you know,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
I mean, like, I'm new to the Facebook groups and honestly to all these other encounters that people are having with other types. So, you know, I'm a very skeptical person, and because during my first and second encounter, I seen two dogmen that were identical. You know, they look different, but, you know, they were the same. They looked like the same species. So I always thought that was it, you know. Right. And it wasn't until I met Paul and the pictures and evidence and proof that he sent me and shared with me, and we've talked about that I've got to see this. And I know now for sure, because of Paul, that they're not all the same and that there's multiple types. And I did not agree with the type theory based on my own encounter.
Right.
So, I mean, he's spot on exactly everything he's saying.
Yeah.
Well, and I was the same way. I thought that they all looked the same, too. I thought, you know, the one that I encountered, I thought that that's probably what they all look like, you know. And I was like you, I was skeptical. I seen any other kind of picture on Facebook that looked different, or, you know, even Vic shared the variant types, you know, that picture that shows like 7 of them.
Right.
But I was skeptical of it, you know. And once I started myself seeing these pictures and getting stuff, they just all, some of them had kind of like a mane, some of them were on all fours and looked more canine-ish, some of them were standing up and looked almost tribal. I mean, they're just there's just a whole range of, but they're all canine-ish and all had that canine look in their face, but I guess maybe different breeds you would call it.
Right. Yeah, just like you have different breeds of regular canines. Now, one thing I've been pondering is, you know, how you can run across a violent one, maybe you don't run across one that, or you run across one that don't want to have nothing to do with you. You know, one thing I've pondered is when you do run across one of these violent dogmen, you know, one that wants to inflict harm, you know, is that attributed to inbreeding? You know, because there's a lot of people that say with the Gugways and the Janoskwas, that's the reason why them animals are so violent is because of years and years of inbreeding, staying within their tribe and inbreeding. Do y'all think that's a possibility?
I mean, yeah, inbreeding, absolutely. I do personally, but just because of the way some of them look, you know, they look almost like they have a form of Down syndrome or something, you know. Like,
right.
And I may be wrong, but I think they do have an inbreeding issue. Yeah, I believe that.
Well, in my second encounter, the second one that I seen had an overbite. You know, that was pretty distinct from the first one. Because the first one was happening so fast and so rapid, and it up in my face on me the whole entire time. I didn't get a great look of it ever with its mouth closed, except for when I very first seen it, and that was face to face. Like, not face to face, but, you know, a straight on look. And in the second one, I got to see it move its body, you know, and turn, and I got to see the side of its face and everything. And my first encounter, I never got to see the side of its face, because I was always looking straight on at it, and it was looking straight on at me.
Right.
So I know that the one in my second encounter did have an overbite. And, you know, with Paul's evidence that he has, then he's got ones that look different. So they don't all look the same. And also, like you said, with the aggressive ones, what Paul's doing with his boots on the ground research, he's not just stomping through the woods, or he's taking his time when he goes to these places, so that most of the time they're going to know he's there. So
Right.
in my first encounter, he didn't know I was there, and I walked up on it thinking that it was my other dog,
Right.
my second dog. So that put me in its element, and I think that it took it as a challenge. All right, you're brave enough to come in here on me while I'm having my meal in a place that you shouldn't be. Let's go. And
Right.
then in my second encounter, I snuck up on it, but it wasn't eating. You know, and I was a distance away from it, shining a light on it. It wasn't eating. It was in a ditch doing something. I don't know if it was looking for something to eat or getting a drink of water. I'm not sure what it was doing, but I didn't pose it any immediate threat.
Right.
So I think people that go out tromping through the woods, or even sneaking through the woods, sneaking up on one of these things, if you ever have that opportunity, is going to put you in immediate danger.
Right. Absolutely, I agree. Because you really never know what you're going to run across when you encounter one of these things. And like I said a while ago, Kyle, you're living proof of that. You know, you may run into one that, you know, it's happened to kill a meal and try to consume it, and then you happen to stumble upon it, oops, and then it just, you know, it looks at you like, man, you just disrupted my hunt, my meal, you know, we're fixing to throw down. And then you may run across one that's just passing on through, like Paul had in his encounter. You know, he was just passing on through and just, you know, just moseyed on through and just, you know, went out the way. You know, so it's, you know, I think a lot of what we do is really dangerous, especially Paul going into that Daniel Boone. You know, that place is I've seen pictures of what he sent me, and it really looks like nothing other that I've ever seen. I really do look forward to going down there with y'all and getting with y'all guys and, you know, enjoying a week down there. But like I said, you know, I have no interest in going in there at night. Paul, I know you feel the same. But yeah, that's most definitely, with everything that you've showed me and told me, man, that's definitely a dangerous place to be at, especially at night. Because you never know what you're going to run across, and in all that forest, it's pretty large. It's pretty large.
Well, me and Kyle went fishing, and you know, it's even hard to fish in there, you know, because at nighttime, you know, you're always conscious how close you are to the bank. If something's standing on the bank watching you, it's you know, it's you know we had something happened while we were down there fishing. I don't know what. Something spooked some waterfowl, and yeah, and even then, it still took me almost 4 or 5, almost a week, just to even for it to dawn on me that ducks are not, you know, nocturnal animals.
Wow. So
Yeah, that was crazy, because I mean, look, I've done the same thing. It took me a few days, and I text Paul. I'm like, man, those ducks are not nocturnal. And I mean, Paul stood up on the boat, and he was locked and cocked and ready to rock, because they come straight at us. These ducks did, and they didn't fly in. They were someplace along the bank, and whenever they came over towards us on our boat, you know, because I mean, waterfowl, they're not going to just come up to people, and especially wild waterfowl, and there was a big loud splash in the water, really loud, and I think, and I talked to Paul about it, that maybe something threw something at them when they were sitting up on the side of the bank someplace, you know, because, and then another thing that I thought about was that if it was a bobcat or a wildcat, then, you know, they would have just took flight and left. But they came straight at the boat, almost like I'm going towards them for safety. And then once they came at us on the boat, they stayed in the water and would not go back to the bank. And they kind of followed parallel, out there. I don't know, how far you say, Paul?
I'd say about at least 50, 60 yards. They paralleled us up towards us. We could only walk about 75 yards from the boat, 100 yards maybe.
Yeah, and then that's when I started thinking, during my first encounter, my body took over.
Right.
Because my mind, and Paul and I talked about like a pheromone release in the air.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe, I know in my first encounter, my mind was thinking the whole time, I'm dead, give up, it's over, you're gone, there's nothing you can do, it's over. Instead of thinking like run, hide, like fight or flight, there was definitely no fight to be had. But my mind wasn't thinking, get out, you're going to be okay, just do this, do that. It wasn't processing the information. The whole entire time in my mind, I'm thinking, it's over. There's nothing I can do. So my body took over and was just doing its own thing, and I was just going. And I think, those waterfowl doing what they done towards us in an area that's thickly populated with dogman, it doesn't make any sense why they would come straight at us, unless, as Paul and I said, because they thought, well, I'll be safer if I go towards them.
Right. Right, and that makes a lot of sense. I actually had on my property sitting there hunting one night, me and my wife. I was set up right there in front of my pond, probably about 180 yards from my feeder, and my dogs started going crazy out there as soon as it got dark, and they never stopped. And they were just, all 6 of them were yak, 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 all night till about 9:30 when we left, and they were still going crazy. What's the crazy part is there's about 50, 60 head of cow out there, and they were at the wood line and further down going toward the old sulfur plant at the corner of the property. It'd be the northwest corner of the property. And when them dogs started going crazy, all 60 head of cow took off in a sprint. Every one of them took off. I mean, you can hear the hooves hitting the ground. It sounded like a stampede, man. And they went to the south side of the property at the very corner, and they stayed there, and they would not come back towards where we were. And that night, I heard whoops, wood knocks, you could hear something walking in the tree line out there by the feeder. It was a wild night, man. You just got that feeling you were being watched. My wife caught something in the binoculars. She said that, when she would not focus on a particular spot out the corner of her eye, she could see something move, and when she'd pan the binoculars back in on where it was moving, it would stop. It's like it was watching us, man. It knew what we were doing. And, I truly believe, just like y'all said, them animals can sense that danger. And they'll move to wherever looks safest, even if it's with y'all on the boat, man. They're going to think, man, them guys are there. That's probably going to be the safest place to be on top of this water.
Well, I thought maybe that, because, Kyle don't have a big motor, you know what I'm saying? Like, we was using a trolling motor, so, we were fairly silent.
Right.
So I took it away because like he said, I had my firearm out. All he had to do was give me the word, and I would start putting around it. But I took it as they got almost out there and seen that we were there, and it was like, oh shit, and then they cut left. But like he said, they could have been coming toward that boat to seek refuge, because they hit the water so hard. Like they didn't just come down into the water. They hit it hard, like hard enough to freak me and him out, and they were coming at us together. So it looked like one large object. That's what, we wasn't just freaking out because we seen, a couple ducks. You couldn't tell at the distance they were at, but they were together coming, and it was making one, they were just making one wave, it was like one large creature. But then as they turned left, they started to split up a little bit, so we recognized what they were.
Yeah.
And we're two country boys that have lived off the land a lot. Deer hunted, squirrel hunted. We hunted with hounds and everything else in between. So whenever we know the difference between an oddity or something that's regular and irregular. And
Right.
I never heard the ducks flying in, because I mean, as close as they were to us, we would have heard them. We would have heard them flying in before they crashed into the water.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I still feel like that initial splash that we heard might not have been the ducks. It might have been something throwing something at the ducks, because it was a loud crash. It wasn't just some ducks subtly going into the water.
No, it wasn't.
So, have you ever heard of dogmen throwing rocks, Paul? I mean, have you?
I haven't. I haven't really heard too much. I haven't heard about dogmen doing stuff like that. I mean, I've heard some strange things, but now not throwing stuff, and I just don't think they have the same activity as a Sasquatch. I could be wrong. They may very well, they may very well be able to be sticking back on ducks in the head. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something was after them ducks that night. There is no question in my mind. The only question is what was it? Now, we're starting, and me and Kyle was out there goofing off, man. We were doing whoops and stuff. We liable to have caught something in, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, Paul was definitely whooped a lot. Like, we had pretty much the whole lake to ourselves, and throughout that night too, we were close enough to the bank, but far enough away to feel safe. And like, I will not at night in the Daniel Boone have my back turned within a few feet from the bank. I won't do it. I won't walk to the vehicle by myself if I'm fishing on a lake in the Daniel Boone. There's a lot of things that I will not do at night in the Daniel Boone, and that's the way I feel about it. I know that there are other people out there that have claimed to live with families of dogmen. I mean, I'm not going to judge anyone, but I'm saying in the area of Daniel Boone that we go to, if these people were to go out there at night and hold a call in distress by themselves, I feel like they wouldn't make it the next day. They'd end up missing 411.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's a good possibility. Paul and I have talked about, like, one of the first things he told me when I met him, if you want to draw something in, get this certain call. I'm not going to say, because I don't want no one going out there and doing this shit and getting killed. But, if you do a certain call over the Bluetooth, you're going to draw something in. And definitely you're going to draw every predator in within probably a 10-mile radius, if not more. And I agree, man. I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that.
All right, guys, like, out of all the times that all of us have been out hunting, let's say we went out deer hunting, and all of us that are talking right now know that there's a certain bark that a squirrel makes whenever they get aggravated when something's in their area that's making them mad, that's not a part of their area. Like a buck walks through. I've seen squirrels bark like an aggressive bark towards a buck, or bobcats, and letting everything else in the area know. And crows will do the same thing.
Right.
Letting everything in the area know, hey, this ain't supposed to be here. Get out of here. How many times have you all been sitting down hunting and heard a squirrel making that bark that has not seen you?
Bunches.
Too far off, and wondered, I wonder what that squirrel's barking at. The wildlife knows, Rick, exactly like you said.
Yeah.
The wildlife knows.
They do. They do. I've sat in a deer stand many a time by myself in the dark, man, wondering what the hell's barking out there, because, you hear strange shit at night. Or to me, over here in Texas, it's early in the morning for whatever reason. Early in the morning, anywhere from 3 to 6 a.m. is when the weird stuff happens, man. And on my property, it's 3 to 6. Every day. When I go out there and done a morning hunt this past season, every time I did a morning hunt, I heard something weird. And it wasn't just one thing. It was over the course of a couple of hours. Like I could hear something paralleling the wood line walking back and forth, and it was heavy. You could hear branches breaking, wood knocks, probably a squatch. But, I've also heard other weird stuff in the, 9, 10 o'clock at night, like a branch sound like it's being peeled off a tree. Something walking toward us like it sounded like it was angry. I don't know if I was getting bluff charged. But man, we heard it. It sounded evil. We had that primal fear take over, that dread, just like, man, just get the hell out. And that's when I had my son with me, and we walked backwards almost 200 yards till we got to the truck. And that's when I told myself, because I usually don't go to the woods without a firearm, and that night we just walked over there for just a quick minute with some cameras and stuff, and I'll never make that mistake again, man, because we got the hell out, and we had to do it backwards, and it wasn't fun doing it backwards.
Well, I mean, and even touching on what Kyle said, we all deer hunt, we walked up on a squirrel and had it bark and make that noise, at us. So, I mean, if you're sitting there and you hear a squirrel bark, over the ridge or whatever,
yeah,
something's walked up on it and startled. Even ground squirrels, ground squirrel will give you like 4 squirrels.
Yeah. They're pretty protective, especially when you're at the tree. They have their young in, man. They'll go to barking at you, and hell, I've heard times of people going hunting out in the day for squirrel, and they get too close to a tree where there's a nest of squirrel, and the squirrel jump right on them.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
And backing off what you said, Rick, I mean, it's another thing all the team can attest to, and anyone that's listening that's deer hunting. How many times during that 3 to 6 you're going out? I've always been a guy that I usually get out to my tree stand an hour before it breaks daylight.
Right.
And you all know that whenever it's not light enough to shoot yet, but it's light enough to see kind of what's in your area, but it's still kind of misty as the day's starting to break.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have you seen a big half tree that looks like it's standing there, like, well, you know what, that could be a big buck, or that kind of looks like a bear out there.
Yeah.
Or then you're like, well, as soon as it gets light enough to see, I'm gonna scope it out. You start looking around, and you hear leaves and stuff rustling around you, and you're looking around in the woods and kind of observing what's going on, and then daylight breaks, and what you were looking at before it's too clear to see is gone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Had that happen, and it'll just send the goosebumps all down my arms. I've had it happen a couple of times out there, where I was sitting out there before dark. And this was before I had got night vision and thermal. I was sitting out there with this huge scope and just watching the feeder, and I'm like, man, I can't see jack. And just I was looking for silhouettes, and then you see something there, and you're like, man, that really looks like something. Then you take the scope from your eye, and you're looking, and you're like, that really does look like something. And I'm thinking, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me with the dark. And then, it gets a little bit lighter. You're like, man, there's something right there. And then as it gets really lit, and you look in the scope, you can't see it. Had that happen, man, and it's like, nope, I'm going to the truck. The hell with this. I'll come back another day. I'm not gonna sit out here no more. And
I've been deer hunting myself, and I'll be sitting there and I'll hear something behind me that sounds like a ground squirrel. It sounded like a ground squirrel, maybe a squirrel to me. I sat there for a minute and I thought, well, if I don't look, I'll end up regretting it. So I will maneuver around and turn around and look, and there was a whole herd of deer there that went through the area, and I heard a squirrel. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't make no noise in them dry leaves. I don't know how they did it. A whole herd of deer now. There was at least 10 there. They went through right behind me. I didn't get a shot off on none of them, but it was amazing to me, because had I not turned around and looked, I would have known.
Now this is gonna pose the question: if a deer can get that stealthy, what do you think a dog man can do?
Yeah,
You know, I've heard from Al Santoriga telling me one of his encounters that they were being stalked, and this dog man went straight stealth mode, belly on the ground, kind of like crawling on all fours, and you know they knew it was there, but they couldn't see it. And,
I've seen a deer do that coming into a feeder that after it'd been shot at a few days earlier.
mm-hmm.
I've seen a deer do a belly crawl into a feeder.
What? That's crazy.
Yeah.
It'd been shot at. My uncle had shot at it with his bow a few days before that, and so it knew that something was in that area that spooked it before. So it came in there on almost like a belly crawl, almost to really low to the ground to go in and check out the corn to make sure it was safe.
Yeah. And if them deer can get that stealthy, man, them dog, man, if they're really truly eating deer, they're gonna have to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of these deer, and be a lot quieter than the deer are. Because of course, deer their hearing is their best sense. Their hearing and their nose, especially the hearing. You know, you can crack a straw on a soda from like 100 yards, and that son of a gun will stick its head straight up and look right at you. You know, and so. Other than the dogman using agility to catch these things, they gotta be sneaking up on them some kind of way. And if they're sneaking up on them, they gotta be stealthy as hell.
Or any type of advantage, they know their advantage. You know.
Yeah.
Because in my first encounter, that dogman was eating that coyote alive, and there's not very many animals in the animal kingdom that's going to eat something alive.
Right.
So it knows that.
You there, Kyle?
Something happened, didn't it?
I think we lost him. Hold on, let me call him back.
I'm sorry, but the person you called has a voicemail box.
I don't know if his phone died or what. We'll get back to him here in just a minute, or he'll call back. But yeah, I mean, I really and truly believe that, you know, these things are real stealthy and real quiet, and that's probably part of the reason why, you know, like you said, you go out there and you know, 20, 30 yards from you, you don't see it until you go back and review footage. Man, it's just
I don't really go out there looking to have an encounter. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Okay, hold on, Paul. Here he is. All right, Kyle, you there?
Yeah.
All right, Paul, you there?
Yeah.
All right, Paul, go ahead. What you were saying?
Just that, you know, they know that they're an apex predator, and they'll probably use any advantage that they can as far as stalking their prey. And another thing, like what we were talking about earlier, how Paul said those deer had snuck right up on him and he thought it was a squirrel.
Mm-hmm.
Our minds as hunters, like, we know things that we hear and think, well, that's a squirrel. That might be a deer coming through the woods. That might be a bobcat or anything like that. That's a smaller game species that we're hearing or that we're seeing move around. Our minds from hunting have been trained in that. And the average person that doesn't hunt, that's going through the woods, they might not see as much wildlife, you know, because game's going to see them coming and tromping through the woods and everything like that. And then there's some of the world's best magicians. They trick you with sleight of hand because your mind has known 1 + 1 = equal 2.
Right.
But and you all know as well as I do, there's magicians out there that can blow your mind, and once they reveal the secret, you're like, oh, okay. But it was always there for you to know. So
right.
Just because we see something a certain way doesn't always mean that's the way things are. You know what I'm saying? Like, as far as the dogman goes, whenever Paul gets these pictures of them, the average person may not have gotten that photo because they wouldn't know what to look for.
Right. Right, and yeah.
So he's really adapted to that because he knows where they're at. and where they're going to be, what areas they're going to be located, where they might be, hunker down at, and where they wouldn't be as well.
I'll assure you, though, it's hard for me. I mean, it's as hard for me as it probably would be for anybody. But like Lieutenant said, it comes down to frame by frame. I have like Kyle just said, I have picked up on a lot of things that I didn't notice before. It was the first time that I went out to Kirk when we come home and I reviewed the footage. I was like, oh man, I didn't see nothing. But now I can go back today and review that footage and find stuff, and I actually have. So like that creature, whatever that thing is, that reptilian looking thing that I shared a picture of, that's from like back in February or something. That's from an old video that and I was looking at something else in the video and just so happened to catch that. So I mean, there's the Daniel Boone. To say that it's a strange place is an understatement. I don't know what happened or what's going on. That's a really good question, and that's a question that I like to find answers to, as to why is it like that?
After hearing, for the last few months, Paul, you and I talked about the Daniel Boone, and then, me reading up on the Sam Houston National Forest, and from what I've read on it and the encounters flowing out of there, that place is riddled with them too. What I've been thinking is these things are really heavy in these national forests, wildlife preserves probably, the management areas. Why are they seeking refuge in these forests? I know one reason maybe because they're so desolate, but I mean, it's, you're not going to see them, just your everyday Joe Schmo piece of wood, They're really riddled heavy in those national forests. I've always had the question, why,
The national forest thing, one of the most talked about things about the Daniel Boone is the man, Daniel Boone. Mm-hmm. And one of the most controversial things that Daniel Boone ever said was that he shot a wahoo. He shot and killed a wahoo, is what he called it.
Yeah.
And everyone knows that, and that's documented. He wrote that he shot what he called a wahoo. And no one knows what a wahoo is. So it could be a Bigfoot, it could be a dog man, it could be, it could be anything. But what he called wahoo was not an animal unlike anything he's ever seen. And it stood as a man. And he killed it.
Yeah.
And now all this big tract of land that goes across Kentucky that's protected land is now, it used to be called the Cumberland, but now it's called the Daniel Boone National Forest. Why was the name changed? So if you want to connect those dots, you can, but that's a theory that's out there.
Well, and then you add in the names, the ones that I've shared with you guys, like when you look at a map that tells you the names of the areas and the hiking trails and stuff. To me, that's one of the strangest things I've ever seen in my life. Like, why would they name that? Big dog slaughter. Like those are just insane names to me. They all have they all have something to do with dogs or I don't know, something strange. I would imagine. I don't know why I can't figure out of all the names in the world. You pick that.
Yeah, that's.
There's leatherwood, white sulfur, black sulfur, limestone branch, and there's all these names that attribute to wildlife, but then the dog slaughter and everything like that. That's a little bit out there. There's a reason why it was named that.
Yeah, I agree that, and yeah, that's real interesting. You brought that up, Paul. Very interesting, because like Kyle said, it's named that for a reason, and especially changing the name, because I looked on a map today, and I was trying to find the Daniel Boone, and it was on my WeatherBug app, and it wasn't named the Daniel Boone. And I looked, and I know that's the Daniel Boone, but why isn't it named that? Why isn't it named that on this map? And that just answered the question of curiosity I had from earlier, and why they would change that. That's a good question, that, and I know, Paul, you've said that you think that place is cursed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Daniel Boone had, if he just pissed the Indians off that bad, or, but I've heard that the Indians wouldn't even live, in or around the Daniel Boone National Forest, that they would hunt, go home, they wouldn't live there. So, I mean, I don't know if maybe they, I guess if you believe in that kind of stuff, I don't know, if maybe they cursed the land just to keep the white man from getting it or what. But,
wow, that's...
Well, I mean, Daniel Boone's son was killed by the Indians, and he became friends with them before that, and his son was killed by the Indians, and he fought against some of the Indians and killed some of the Indians, and he was one of the first frontiersmen in the state of Kentucky. But there's a book out there called The Frontiersman that's about Simon Kenton. And Simon Kenton was pretty much a frontier Rambo, that he was an Indian killer. And that's why that nothing in Kentucky was ever named after him. And, that's who owned all this land, the Blackfoot Indian. That's some of my ancestry is Blackfoot.
mm-hmm. Mine too.
That's where all this land originated from. There's places in the Daniel Boone Paul and I have talked about that I bet Indians haven't even walked in. You don't understand how big that it is until you get out there.
Wow, that's crazy.
Well, and not even that. It's some of these areas are just almost impossible to get into. You know what I'm saying? That it's just such rough terrain, and there's the road only goes so far. So. Yeah, it's just like he said, it's not only a large area, but very hard to get into by foot. Just rough terrain. So it's a place that you don't want to go and be caught at nighttime. For sure.
Yeah, and
what gets me about that is that years ago they said that. I guess maybe Bush was in office. They had some cutbacks on some of the federal funding for wildlife management and the forestry offices and stuff. So they had to they maintained what they maintained, but there are certain areas that they selected no longer to maintain anymore. Like there are certain roads that trails that I was a kid. I used to go back and hike and coon hunt with my dad, and it was all gravel, and you could walk back in there as far as you want to go back into the Daniel Boone and hunt. And we've done that. But then there are certain areas, and those areas that they chose to give up on and let go back to nature, when you go to those areas, I swear and I feel like they chose these certain areas for a reason to let go back to nature. Because every single one that they let go back to nature, when you go on those hiking trails, and it's padded down for years and years and years, except for now it has a lot more growth than what it ever has. When you go in those areas, you feel like it's just different. And I think it was selected purposely to let go back. I feel like, and Paul feels the same way, that there's certain areas that are just different in the National Forest. And when you step out into that terrain, you're in a different place. You're in the Daniel Boone, but you're in a place that, you're in a place that you don't feel welcomed by nature.
wow.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You sure don't feel welcome.
Wow, so I know there's certain parts. I know, Paul, you had mentioned something about the flats of the Daniel Boone. Is that more on the south of the forest?
That's more up by where Kyle's at, and more toward the western side of the Daniel Boone. Is you're coming out of the Appalachian Mountains and into the foothills. it's more toward up around where Kyle's at, is where the foothills and stuff are. So, the southern part down there it's still got some pretty steep mountains and stuff and foothills. It's kind of a mix, but.
Yeah, I'm 15 minutes from flat cattle country, and then I'm 10 minutes from mountains. So I live right in the middle of mountains, foothills, and flat country. And there's a lot of areas that's not far from my house that's also flat, Daniel Boone.
Yeah.
I live 400 yards from my house is a piece of Daniel Boone, and it was actually given back. A lot of people do that are big into agriculture. They'll give their land whenever they pass away to the state of Kentucky, or to the Park Fish and Wildlife, whatever you want to say, and it'll also become part of the Daniel Boone. That's how the Daniel Boone keeps growing and growing and growing each year.
Wow. Yeah, and I know, like I talked to you one night, Kyle, on the phone, and that was, matter of fact, that was the first time I talked to you on the phone, and being that you're just right on the edge of it, man, we were hearing some weird stuff over the phone. I told Paul about it, man. I that howl we heard was, that was definitely something not a typical wolf or coyote. I mean,
yeah, that was the very first time. And you know how many times I sat out in my garage and talked and worked on projects and everything? I've never heard nothing like that before. But that night, like, whenever they started howling out there, and I know there's a few of them that were definitely coyotes, but that last one was just way bigger than a coyote. Way bigger. And it was just in a league of its own as far as its howl.
And you hear a lot of encounters and stuff that involve coyotes. Do you think the coyotes are following the dogman, or do you think the dogman follows the coyotes?
I think it's kind of like your, let's look at it like this. A river gar, the fish, a river gar.
Yeah.
That they eat different species of fish and stuff like that. They're kind of a nuisance fish as far as they're not a sport fish like a muskie or a bass. But in certain areas down south that are overpopulated, and Texas being one of those, with the gar, how they've maintained that gar population so that there's abundance of species of fish that lives is by releasing the alligator gar. And the alligator gar will travel the same exact path as the gar will. So they'll eat the gar. They'll travel and they act the same way, but they're just a different species. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's my theory on it. I've thought about that a lot.
Well, I kind of looked at
in my first encounter, it was with the coyote.
Yeah, I kind of looked at it like hyenas and lions. You know what I'm saying? That's how I took it. Maybe they.
Yeah, that's probably even better than my thought on it.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, me and you know what an alligator gar is and all that stuff, but
Yeah.
And alligator gar, that's a great analogy. They're scavengers. They're scavenger animals. So I don't. Hyenas are scavengers. Coyotes are scavengers. Gar, all these are scavenger animals and fish. So I don't know. But in your first encounter, the coyotes were there first.
Mm-hmm.
So then the dogman came in. So.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Like, if the dogman would have arrived first, then it would have been a totally different story. I might not be talking to you today because I would have been going in there regardless. And if that would have happened first, what could I have done if I didn't have protection? Whenever I walked in, if the dogman had been there first, then and had killed my dog, then it would have been a totally different outcome. I wouldn't have had no protection at all. Each and every single time that it was close enough to harm me, it was stopped in its tracks each and every single time. Even if only for a brief moment, it was still long enough to keep me ahead of it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, I don't know, man. It's hard to put, it's hard to put a pattern on it, because you don't know. I hear so many encounters. I've heard of, there was a guy that did a show a while back on, I forget what he was on, but he was talking about, he was a professional coyote caller. They had competitions and stuff where they call in coyotes like predator hunting.
Yeah.
That's what he did, and he ended up calling in a dog man during this competition or whatever. He said it came in like 200 yards. He said, I got a great look at it through my scope. He said his the way he described it was almost exactly how mine. Excuse me. It's almost exactly how mine was, as far as the way it looked. It's weird to me. I've always wondered, do they follow the coyotes or do the coyotes follow them? But, like I said, I've always kind of wondered if it's kind of like a hind and a lion, relationship.
Yeah, that's...
And, during my first encounter there, it was loud. All the ruckus and stuff was loud. I mean, my papa could hear it from the truck, everything that was going on. And it was extremely loud. So he had plenty of opportunity to come from a pretty good distance off. And the time that I heard the coyotes, whenever we go out, I'll show you all where those coyotes were located. When the very first time they opened up and started barking as a pack, in the distance between where my dogs were treeing at. We're treeing the coon at.
Yeah.
So it didn't take them long at all to make it to where our dogs were. So that dog man could have came from way further off even than that. It could have been after the coyotes the whole time.
Yeah. Following them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they happen to run up on your dogs. Yeah, it's just a domino effect.
Yeah, they were the coyotes were there to eat my dogs. It's what they were going to do. That's what they were there to do. And that happens to a lot of people who coon hunt. That sometimes their dogs get ate by packs of coyotes or who knows, whatever else, because it never made a sound until it got latched on. Once my dog latched onto it and it let out that howl that just shook me,
Mm-hmm.
I knew that, looking back on it, that it was not with those coyotes because it sounded way different.
Right. Wow.
It's very interesting to me. That's something I've thought about a lot. Every time I hear the coyotes here at my house, you can still hear them, even though I'm in a suburban area. I can still hear coyotes yipping in the distance, and I'm talking about from like 200 or 300 yards away. You can still hear them somewhat yipping at nighttime when you walk outside because it's so quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, and we have them a lot on our property, and you hear them from all around that damn property. And, there's been a couple of times where I hear a howl that is totally different, and it sounds a lot larger than a damn coyote, and I've heard it twice.
Yeah, I think it might be maybe establishing dominance, like, hey, I'm here now.
Yeah.
Go ahead and back away and let me have what you've already taken, or I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
That's not a very good deal,
Yeah, it's really not, and that's one thing I'm gonna have put into my head. We end up going out there, and lo and behold, it starts getting dark. We lose track of time. I start hearing coyotes. I don't know about y'all fellas, but I'm gonna make a beeline.
Yeah, I'm gone.
Yeah.
I mean, and another thing is like, if the dogman was tracking that pack of coyotes, and it had tracked that pack of coyotes before, and they made a kill, and it came in and taken it over. But in this instance, my dog was not backing out from those coyotes. so it was no quick kill. He was tooth and nail and staying right there because he thought they were coming to take the tree away from him because the dog don't know no better.
Right.
And he sees a cow just as another dog. You know, and those dogs have testosterone just like men do. You know what I'm saying? Like they're tough and they think that they're tough and that nothing's gonna bother them. Everyone has seen a dog that thinks that there's nothing else around. If something comes in my yard, this is where I'm at, and anything that comes in my yard, I'm chasing it off or killing it.
Yeah.
Be a pit bull or anything.
Right.
Everyone's known a dog like that.
Yeah, I got 2 of them right now.
And they're not a bad thing to have around.
No, they're really not, man. Yeah. I mean, it's something that I think about a lot. So I mean, there was something else that I was saying. I forgot now. Yeah, the coyotes are. I don't know what kind of role they play. Oh yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I mean, like you said before, the coyote's like a 50-pound coyote is a big one.
Yeah.
In the state of Kentucky, 50 pounds is a huge coyote. So some of the tracks.
And that's alpha male.
Yep.
Yeah, and they're scared to death. Like he said, the people, they're scared to death, man. They won't, they're not trying to have anything to do with any humans.
Nope.
And that boy that was killed in Hazard, there's no way that was a coyote or a pit bull or a domestic dog. It wasn't.
Oh no, absolutely not. That it was a teenage boy, I believe, like 12, 13 years old, if I remember right.
14 years old.
14.
And Paul can tell you too. I'm pretty sure if he watched any of the news and all that stuff happen, they changed it. Like if you go on now and you Google it, it's not what they reported. They reported that it was an unknown canine species, just one individual, and it didn't drag this boy up a mountain. It dragged this boy up a cliff. There's a big difference between a mountain and a cliff. Some people may not know that. A mountain is, anyone can walk up a mountain and take your time, slowly up a mountain, but not everything can climb up a cliff. Cliff has a slick rock face.
Well, even dragging 150 pounds up a slight incline for 400 yards is a damn workout. And that's gonna be a workout that no average pit bull or German Shepherd or whatever is gonna be able to do for that length of time. Now you may go 20, 30, 40 yards. Yeah, that's foreseeable. But going 400 yards with 150 pounds and just going up a slight incline, there's no way. There's no way. Not with all the foliage.
Or Pack Coyotes, they would have ate that boy right there. I know that's horrible to say and horrible to talk about. And I couldn't imagine as a parent what that family went through. But they would have done it right there.
Well, whatever did that had self-awareness enough to know. It had self-awareness enough to know that it couldn't stick right there and do what it was doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it from what reports I've heard, wasn't the kid inside the house?
No.
The doorstep, wasn't he, Kyle?
Yeah, he's at the doorstep. He had his backpack on. He's at the doorstep, and they took him off his doorstep. He's trying to get inside of his house.
Oh, gotcha.
He's the only one home, and he's trying to unlock the door and get inside his house.
So whatever got him was watching him, actually, then.
Yeah.
Yep. And and you never know what you're going to run into, man. You never know. It's just perplexing how a lot of these people say they want to go out and have an encounter. Yay, that's fun. And I'm going to come out and say it. If you're going out into any of these national forests wanting to see a dog man, a Bigfoot, chances are you're probably not, but there's that one out of how many ever chances the one you do see is going to be the last one you see.
Mm-hmm. And Paul can tell you, last week, I had read something, because as I said, I'm new to these groups. I had read something where there's an individual out there that had claimed that they lived with them and that they played together and stuff like that. And I was so taken back by it and so, I was pissed off.
He was throwing on animals.
Because, I was like, I'm not going to release my book. I'm not, I was backing away from all of it, because if there's just one person that takes something like that, excuse me, that takes something like that serious and walks upon one while it's in its own element, it's not going to be like that.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And you're never gonna know what type of mood whatever creature you encounter, what kind of mood it's gonna be in. It's just like yours, Kyle. You happen to stumble up while this creature had a coyote in its mouth, and then the next encounter, you come across one and he's, traveling on through, you never know. And that's what I try to tell a lot of these people, you don't want to go out messing in any kind of woods where you don't know the terrain, you don't know what's out there, and you definitely don't want to go out there trying to call something in that you think is out there, because chances are you may call it in and it may not end well. And a lot of these people just think, oh yeah, I'm going to go walk into the woods and I'm going to get the holy grail of Bigfoot or Dogman, and then boom, I'm done. It just don't work that way. And,
it's a fairy tale to believe that. Is what it is.
It is. I just find that complete nonsense, actually, and that's what I've told you before, Paul. Those are the ones I call cryptid illiterates, because they know absolutely nothing about research. They don't read these encounters, the details. They think it's just trampling in the woods with the camera and filming. And
me and Kyle have a lot of knowledge about the outdoors, because we were raised in the outdoors and stuff. But at the end of the day, none of that matters without common sense.
It don't.
It's all useless.
It is.
You gotta have common sense. I believe it or not, you guys know what I do, but I'm not looking to have an account at all. I don't want that.
No.
I like doing what I'm doing. I'm just out there to look around. I'm not out there trying to force nothing to happen. I'm very cautious. I'm very vigilant. I move slow and deliberate. I try not to give anything any reason to take me as a threat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep, and that's the way I am when I go out. I'm very well content with setting up cameras and getting pictures or audio, but to come across one, if I do and it happens, but I'm not looking for it. I'm not pushing the issue of trying to go out there and I'm gonna film a Dogman today and it's gonna happen, because chances.
If Kyle was a researcher, there ain't no doubt in my mind. Oh my God, man! Just the stuff that we could put together and do. Because don't let that country accent fool you. Kyle is super smart. He may not admit it or whatever. Dude's super smart.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm not saying that because he's my friend, like he really is. He knows, and I'm so close to the subject. Sometimes it takes somebody who's outside to look in and say, "Hey, what about this or what about that?"
Right.
Things that I find my face. So. Yeah, if he wasn't a researcher, all the damage that we could do would be unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I agree. And just thinking October, man, that's gonna be a good 5, 6, however many days I stay there. I don't even know how many days I'm gonna stay there yet, but I know with the equipment I'm bringing, these Dogmen can hide from a 4K camera. They can hide from an iPhone, but you ain't going to hide from that thermal. I guarantee it. If it's sitting there, that thermal's going to see it. And if it's in that thermal, I'm going to catch it. And then once we catch it, I'm good. We're just gonna, it's just another way of proving that what you're seeing is there. Is all I'm there for. You know, and
All I want to get out of October is, I've had the burden of packing my encounters around for years and years and years and years, and I just want to go back and be back there one more time. I'm not looking to go out and have an encounter, but I want to go back and just put it to rest,
right.
let that die down, because every single time people who've had aggressive encounters, every single time something bad happens in your life, then you reflect back on, well, it could be worse if you had that personality, and I have that personality. So every single time that something really bad has happened to me in my life, I reflect back to the worst part of my life, the worst time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time that happens, I have to deal with those demons all over again.
Right.
So it's a part for me of putting those demons to rest. I have not been back. So that's what I want to get out of. I want to put those demons to rest, and I want them to be gone. And that's, as far as writing the book, I've had nothing but bad that's came from that encounter. Who can you talk to about it?
Right.
Who's going to believe you? Who can you tell? How can you get help for this? And the first step was to talk about my encounter and what happened. All right, I've done that. I've talked about that. When I still have bad moments, I still reflect back on the worst moments I've had, because that's my personality. So now I'm at the point where, okay, I've battled that demon and I've talked about it. But it keeps on coming back. But
right.
Talking about it helps. So now that I've talked about it and I've gone over that and it's helped me, now I'm at the point where, okay, how else can I get help from writing this book? It's going to reach more people. I'm going to tell my story to more people. They're going to know about it. They're going to watch their back and maybe think differently when they go out to these locations. And it's going to be a support system for me. And if everything works out, it'll also help my family, So now I'm finally at the point in my life where my encounter, I can actually get some good out of my encounter. And
right.
That's been my ultimate goal from writing my book, is getting better and continuing progress. Because you can talk to war vets, and I'm sure they can tell you the same thing. Shell shock. Whenever you're in shell shock, your brain's trying to process all this information that you have never seen. I never knew what shell shock was. When I was a kid growing up and stuff, I watched a few movies and stuff where people were shell shocked and there's all kinds of stuff going on around them, and then you start wondering, why are they standing there just looking? Because I didn't understand what shell shock was. But I know what shell shock is now.
Right.
Because I was a part of it in my first encounter when I walked up on it and seen it. Because my mind was trying to process and search throughout every little corner of my mind on what I was seeing and put it together. But it couldn't find anything, and the longer it tried to search for something it had never seen, the more immediate danger I was in. And then looking back on it, I was in shell shock.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the same thing that happened, for me too, was just shock. I mean, that's the only word that you can use to describe it, because I believe that's what it is. Like the ordinary person, I don't know if they would run or not. Shooting my gun at it, running, neither one of them ever entered my mind. I was in total shock I don't think I could have heard you. Had you been standing beside of me screaming at me.
I didn't even hear anything. That's the reason why I couldn't hear anything or smell anything, because I was in such shock that when I was very first seen it and it was moving and dropped a coyote out of its mouth, I never even heard it because my mind was processing so hard. I'm trying to figure out what it is that I'm seeing, that other elements, my sight or my hearing and my smell, part of my senses, they wasn't working because my eyes and my mind were fighting so hard with one another, trying to figure out what this is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's that's really a lot to comprehend in such a short amount of time when you come up on something like that. And I've I've never had, well, hell, there's probably hundreds upon thousands of people that have never had an encounter like you had, Kyle. I've listened to a lot of encounters and I have never heard one quite like that at all. And for you to come that close, it just strikes you in awe. You're like, good night. He was that close, and all that detail that you put out in that encounter, and just listening to it, it painted a picture, saying like, man, this guy really went through a lot, and just how it affected him is just unreal. It really is.
And another part about it, looking back on it, not talking to Paul about it, is that I think that maybe me standing there in shell shock trying to figure out and process what was going on, the longer I stood there, the worse it made it, because it may have thought I was establishing dominance and wasn't afraid, but I was just in awe, like, what is this? So the longer I stood there, and whenever the closest point, whenever it got closest to me in my first encounter, the very first time I seen it, whenever it never had no telepathy or nothing like that, it never gave me any feelings in my head as far as me talking to it talking to me. There was no telepathy, ancient code talk or wind talk or anything like that. Nothing like that happened. That's cotton candies and rainbows, leprechauns and unicorns.
Right.
As far as what happened to me, that wasn't nothing like that happened. There was no exchange in our minds together. Nothing. I took it as an animal. That's how I took it. And whenever it was closest to me during my first encounter, and as I told Paul, I can't read what an animal's thinking. You can't. But through body language and the way it was breathing, it was a really high octane, high testosterone situation where there was a lot of endorphins that was going on between the fights and everything like that. That whenever it stood to me, the feeling that I got from it was, come on then, let's go. Like it was ready for me.
Well, I mean,
there were a time where, during my first encounter, where it was ever like, oh, I need to not be seen or anything like that. It was ready to me as soon as I was there. And, it was eating a coyote that was alive. It was eating it while it was alive. Like it was moving and breathing and, and so it was, the whole entire thing was high octane, a stressful situation. But there's a lot going on. And you all know as well as I do, if you've ever had let's say that you've had a couple of dogs at home, and they're usually really good to each other. But then you put a bowl of food in front of them.
Right.
And then a fight breaks down. And
right.
You try to break that fight up, there's a good chance that they'll bite you. And they love you. These are dogs that you've raised.
Right.
And so it was just, in that situation, that was the feeling that I got from it.
Well, and that's what I was going to say just then, is a lot of people don't know, but you raised and trained dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like, world
My
class.
whole entire life up to that point. I mean, up until I was in my 20s. I raised and trained hounds and dogs, and I know when one takes a dominant stance. Whenever you have a canine that takes a dominant stance, they're going to take a breath from their chest plate.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever they're trying to bluff you or test you out or establish dominance, their stance are way different as far as the canines go. And that dog man had a dominant stance. It wasn't taking a belly breath like you'd see from a happy dog that's playing, or from one that's just laying in front of the TV or chilling out around the house. You know, it wasn't like that. It was in the dominant stance from the very beginning to the end. It meant harm. And if I was to go back and have that same exact encounter again, there's not a doubt in my mind that I would put bullets in them.
Yeah.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I don't either. I got a question from one of my admins, Kyle, and I know I've heard it and I could explain it to him from your encounter, but he wanted to know, with that dogman being so close to you, were you able to smell the breath?
Yeah, I smelled the breath, and I said it on Big Show. It smelled like a buzzard roost. You know, it smelled like a vulture's roost, I guess is what they call them in other places, but around here we call them buzzards. You know, if you ever get a chance to walk up on a buzzard roost and you smell that smell, because buzzards actually, they'll spit up this acid stuff that helps them dispose of bones and that their stomach holds, that allows them to decompose these animals that have been rotting for 2-3 weeks. That's exactly what its breath smelled like. It smelled like decomposition, or that acid that stomach acid that buzzards have in their stomach.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a pretty putrid smell. Tongue twister. But yeah, that's.
I'm
yeah.
sure you probably walked upon buzzards.
Oh yeah, a few times, and yeah, it smells like death.
Smells different.
Yeah, it's gnarly smelling.
It doesn't even smell like roadkill. You know, it smells like it's its own stink.
Yeah, it is. It very is. Tom, one of our other partners, North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project, he wanted to know if did you notice any complete silence before your encounter?
No, because during my encounter, it was all during a fight.
Right, it was all noisy. Yeah.
You know, so
yeah, that's like I said, man.
there's no silence to be had in during that moment.
You know, I've listened, and like I said a while ago, and you know, I just got to repeat it. You know, I've listened to a lot of encounters that people have shared, and I have not once heard one that comes to the caliber of your encounter where they live to tell about it. You know, that description, all the detail, man, it's amazing, but at the same time it's a curse, because one, you had to go through that encounter, which I can't imagine how that was. And I never will, honestly. That was just one, and however
talking to Big, kind of, he can tell you this, that I don't listen to dogman encounters.
Yeah.
You know, that people have. I don't do it. You know what I listen to whenever I look for podcasts?
What's that?
I listen to near-death experiences and missing 411. Like, I follow all the missing 411, all of it.
Right.
So whenever I look for a podcast out there, I listen to near-death experiences that people had and have had, and that's how I become friends with Tony Merkel on the Confessionals podcast.
Yeah.
Is because he had a guy on there who had a near-death experience, and I came across it. And in that near-death experience, he had some type of diabetic coma or something like that. He had a blood disease or something, and he actually died for like 10 minutes and he was talking about what he's seen, what happened to him, and stuff like that. I don't listen to Dogman. I don't watch Bigfoot stuff. I don't do any of that until I started joining these groups. And if I wouldn't have even done that if I hadn't met Paul.
Right.
And Big kind of actually connected Paul and I together. So because I don't do that, and I don't do field research, and I wouldn't be doing all this stuff again if it wouldn't be for meeting Paul.
Right. Yeah, Paul definitely has an effect on people. I'll tell you that much. Talking with him the last 2 months, man, he tell you what, great guy, man. I'm glad him and I joined up on all this, and man, I can't wait to get up there, and just get out there and see what he sees, and get a chance to do what he does on on a pretty frequent basis.
Well, he definitely puts the time in. He's gun ho, boots on the ground.
Yep, exactly. And that's the way you got to be. If you're going to be in this field, that's what you got to do. But you can't go about it in a neglectful manner. You have to know what you're doing in them woods.
There's a lot of people out there from the groups that I've seen, and a lot of those groups I've already left because of the information that they're putting out.
Yep.
And you cannot put out the amount of evidence out there in the world if you're not doing what Paul's doing. He's doing something that a lot of people are not doing, and I respect him for that. And there's a lot of people out there. There are several people that do boots on the ground, and I respect them. And I'd rather listen to a theory that they have over anyone else that's sitting around from home that's not boots on the ground. I can't listen to it. I only have so much free time in my life between work and kids, and I will not listen to that kind of stuff that doesn't match up.
Right.
To each their own. Whatever someone wants to do out there in the world, let them do it. As long as it's not affecting me and mine, that's great. But as far as how I spend my time, I can't listen to stuff and see stuff that's not, that doesn't add up, that they're cute and cuddly and they just want to be friends. I can't do that. I will never do that, and I will always fight against that.
Yep, I feel the same way. What about you, Paul?
Like a minute ago, like you said, how Vic connected us. Like I would call it for it. It's just refreshing to have, to be able to sit down. Like my girlfriend, for example. I know she believes me. Okay, I believe she believes me. She's been out with me. She knows what's going on. She's seen the pictures and stuff. She knows about my encounter, all that. So, but still, when I have a conversation with her in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, does she think I'm crazy? But see, like when I talk to Colin,
I know exactly what you're saying, dude.
Yeah, well, when we have a conversation, for 2 hours, I know that everything I say to him, he knows what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have to worry about him doubting what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? So. Yeah. It's a refreshing conversation, to not have to worry about that when we're talking about this subject.
Paul can tell you, whenever we went out fishing the other day in the Navy Boom, I am not, especially at nighttime. In daytime, I'm fine as far as putting my boat in and everything like that. But the place that we went fishing at the other night in the Navy Boom, it's way out there. There's no lights around. It's dark. There's nothing. And it has affected my life as far as doing outdoor activities at night. It's like I think about that. Before when I was growing up and stuff, I didn't think that's something reaching out and grabbing me and pulling me into the woods. But now I think about stuff like that.
Right.
It's part of my life. It's part of sorry. My mind has adapted its own protective system to where I know, okay, I'm 2-3 foot from the bank with my back turned on my boat. I need to move us away from the bank. And I won't bank fish at night. I won't do it. I will not sit on the bank at nighttime and fish.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I really don't blame you. Nope. That's I agree with you, man. That's especially what you went through. I would not be doing that either. And hell, if I went out there, I wouldn't be doing it. Knowing what Paul has caught on video, picture, what's out there, and a lot of people can discredit it, whatever. Do what you want, but I've seen it. I go out there, I'm gonna take the same precautions. I know you've been through it. I know Paul's been out there, and I'm gonna be first time ever seeing this. What happened? I guess we lost Paul. Hold on, Kyle. Hold on. All right, we lose you, Paul.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man.
All right, I got.
Silent.
Yeah, I got both of y'all back. But like I was saying, Kyle, going out there with y'all two, and if we decide to go fish while I'm up there, it's gonna be the same thing for me. I'm not gonna turn my back to the woods, not one bit. I don't do it now on my property, and I won't do it over there, especially over there. We all three of us.
Man, the Mystic 411 could be anything. It could be a number of anything. But honestly, in my heart of hearts, one of the reasons why I follow it so hard, and I have followed it so hard for years, is based on my encounter. There could be some of them that's just people got lost.
Right.
It is what it is. It's a big forest. There's all kinds of other dangers out in the forest that don't have anything at all to do with cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
And I've told, before I started talking to you, Kyle, I told Lieutenant, I said, I recommend anybody that does any field research at this subject, I recommend them to listen to David Pilotti's show.
Oh, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I've watched
I attribute some of those to Dogman. Based on my encounter, I know in the wrong circumstance, you will die.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, there's no telling what, some of these may be just people that got lost, but, with some of the other evidence that was presented by him, a shoe found here, pair of pants found 10 miles up the road in the mountains,
Yeah, that's what's crazy. I know all of us in here have seen stuff like that. A shoe out there 5 miles in the middle of the woods. Okay, why is this shoe here?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Paul sent me one the other day.
A picture?
Yeah, of a shoe that was out in the middle of the woods.
Damn.
Oh, yeah. We found all kinds of weird things out there that day, man. There was old car doors. And these were cars from 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Just out in the middle of nowhere on top of a mountain. You could tell that there was a logging road there at one time, but there were actually big trees in the road. So, the stuff that was out there was old. There was, but like you just said, there was boots and stuff scattered. But the boots wasn't in that area, but they were in another area. But I don't know, man. For a long time, like I said before in my encounter, I thought werewolves were real. You couldn't convince me otherwise either.
Yeah.
That's the same with me. I thought werewolf, because that's the only thing I knew at that time.
Yeah, and same thing with me. Everything I've heard, I thought werewolf, and then this word called dogman comes about, and it just now it's two totally different things. Apparently, who knows? Slewfoot, yeah.
Slewfoot.
I remember you telling me that. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I had heard that before, but I hadn't heard it in a long time, and then Kyle mentioned it. Yeah, that's what the old timers call it.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty wild. That is pretty wild. Paul, you got anything else you want to talk about?
Man, I'm just following your lead, man. I can talk about this all night long myself. I like talking to you guys. Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. I think you covered it pretty good, everything that we've talked about. I'm about to try some new stuff here in the future. You know, I'm gonna try and do it a little bit more safely. You know what I'm saying? I think
Right.
if like we were saying about tracking through the woods and stuff, and
Yeah.
letting things know you're there. But I thought about maybe getting a kayak and or a couple of us or a couple of people taking some kayaks and cruising these creeks and stuff off these rivers and these lakes, and just cruising up through there and seeing what we see. Get some footage, and I feel like it's a little bit safer than the way I'm currently doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll definitely give you a little bit of response time from a kayak or a little john boat,
Yeah, and I like to fish anyway, so.
Right? Yeah, me too. And I hear the fishing's good up there, is what I've been told.
Yeah.
So.
Kyle knows where they're at.
And at its times.
Kyle, you got anything else you want to add? I know you got a book you're writing. You got a projection date of when it may be out or anything of the sort?
Well, I know the ending of my book, I want it to be after I go out, go back to the area I had my first encounter and go through the emotions of being back there, and seeing what happens whenever we go back and exploring the area and really boots on the ground in the daytime. And I know we're going to have plenty of protection when we go in there.
Right.
And I'll be able to, actually soak it in, go through my emotions and be at some type of mutual understanding, more so. I can't say be at peace with it because you're never going to be at peace with it.
Right.
It's always going to be part of who I am now, as it has been since it happened. But what I would like to say to anyone who is doing boots on the ground research or is thinking about getting into it, reach out to Paul, talk to him, ask him, for tips and what he does for his success. Because I'm not that guy that can tell you what to do for success. I'm just a guy who's had an encounter.
Right.
And I have a lot of theories over the years about it based on my encounter because, as we said, before finding people like you all, you couldn't really talk to a whole lot of people about it.
Yeah.
So that's just the reality of the cryptid world.
It is.
Is that you're limited as to who you can talk to about it. So just be safe, be smart, not only about cryptids, about your surroundings. Like you can be off the beaten path somewhere and fall down and break your leg by yourself and really be in danger as well. So just, be smart whenever you go out and be aware of your surroundings. Let yourself be known.
And that's another thing I wanted to say is, we're going to go out with Kyle in October, so we're probably going to push the documentary back until probably late October, probably early November. Depending on when we go out. But we're going to try and add him going through, of course, not revealing his identity or anything. We're going to go through it and let him just describe, or whatever, or I will, or however we do it. But we'll get the area and get some footage of it and stuff, and we'll add that to the documentary too. So I think it would add, a lot of value to it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I would like to go back to the in my first encounter, see if we can find the tree again where I had the initial encounter and the treetop and walk out that whole entire area. I know it'll be a lot of walking. I think Paul's probably in the best shape out of all of us, but I do want to go back, and if it takes all day to do it, I want to explore the area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it, brother.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Whatever it's going to take for you and to get what you need out of it, we're going to make it happen. And like I said, you ain't got to worry about the protection. Of course, when I go in heavy. I'm going to have plenty with me. I know Paul's going to have what he has, and, we're going to do it. We're going to do it right. We're going to be safe about it. And hopefully we can turn it into something excellent for you. You know, because I'd really like to get you what you're looking for out of that trip in October, and you know, hopefully that'll get you a little closure and you know, get you to where you really need to be.
And you know, as far as like Paul's research and his documentary and stuff in that area, you know, I feel like that they've come up with some ideas where we might be able to bring him out without actually being in that location at that time. And hopefully, while you're down here, we can set up some scenarios to hopefully make that happen. You know,
Yeah,
fingers
absolutely.
crossed that we've talked about it, and Paul's been testing some of these theories out right now. I'm not sure if he probably didn't want to share the information, but
Yeah, no, I don't
the next
matter.
level research. But
Yeah, Josh, the guy that I go out with, Josh, he actually, you know, we had talked about it before, but he had actually brought the bait stuff and his trail camera when we went out. And, you know, we went in a long way. We hiked in, you know, from any trail or any road. We hiked in about a half a mile. So it's out there in the middle of nowhere in kind of a little clear area. You know, we strung up some rope in between two trees and hung about, I think it was a 13-pound rack of ribs and, you know, some little stinking ass fish. And we tricked our trail cameras. I did. And it was just, you know, we should get some great pictures, and like I told you, if we don't, we're going to get some great pictures of what we've done wrong. So, you know, it's really just trial and error at this point with what we're doing.
Yeah.
yeah, just coming up with all of that stuff that Paul's right on top of just new innovations, is trying to learn different ways of bringing, because you know as well as I do that everyone wants a point blank picture of a dog man that wants to know it's real and see that. You know, there are certain people out there that want that, and Paul's continually coming up with these new ideas to try to make that happen. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's gonna help us a lot. I know when I come up there, I have 2 cellular cameras. I'm gonna bring those with me. That way, you know, we can set them up, and hell, we ain't got to go back and check them every day or every 2 days. You know, I can sit there at Paul's house, and whatever triggers it, it'll go right to my phone. So that'll be a little bit of an advantage that we'll have on that. And I'm gonna bring both of those with me when I go up there. So the only thing is one of them.
You know,
one of them's bulky.
anyone out there that's listening that wants to be live bait, and just give us a call. And we'll let you run around for a little
Let
while.
us know how it goes.
Yeah, right. If
Hey, I know that guy Josh, man, he's wild. He don't care. He'll do it. You take him to the area and say, hey, I believe there's a dog man in that hole over there. He would stick his head in it, man. He don't care. And, you know, and I laugh about it, but it's really not funny. But
yeah,
yeah, you know, and that's what I was talking about earlier. That's the difference. You know, I know they're there, so I'm not. That's not my. I don't know how to explain it, man. I guess people think I'm crazy, but I'm really not. I really do have a lot of common sense, and I really don't go out there and act like a fool. I don't, you know, I'm not Rambo. I don't think that I am. I know what I'm in the presence of, and I know that I'm lucky each time that nothing happens to me, you know. So
Yeah, I mean, it's just a different ballgame. You're looking at something eye to eye that wants to rip you to pieces. Then it makes you think a lot differently about Mother Nature.
yeah,
yeah.
Puts a whole different perspective. Really does.
Yeah, it does.
All right,
But
Phil.
we're gonna make good things happen, man.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, like I said, I see us three, especially us three, Tom, you know, David, you know, I see that as a lifelong friendship, man, you know, and you know, I see us doing good things, and You know, I'm really looking forward to getting up there in October because, for one, I haven't had a good, real vacation, and I'm calling this a vacation in friggin' years, man. And I've never been up to that part of the country, so I'm actually looking forward to the drive. So,
Well,
Oh, it's
you know,
beautiful.
and even if, like I told Kyle before, and if the Dogman subject was never brought up again, if he never decided to go out and do anything or write a book or do anything that he's doing, I would still be his friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of my friendships are based on this subject.
oh yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's great to be able to communicate with you guys and talk to you about it.
yeah, and
You know, but
and you know I know you know, Paul, you and I have talked about personal things. You know, I talked to Kyle I think 2 days ago when I was at work, and hell, we talked 40 minutes on nothing but fishing, man. And it was a nice conversation, you know, nice conversation.
Yeah.
And it's
You know, I was wondering, another thing, I've talked to both of you all about this before. After being on Big Thunder show, I had a conversation with someone who asked me, have I ever heard of anything else, anyone else has encountered that kind of brought back emotions and made me feel emotionally about what I went through. And I talked to both of y'all about this. Steve Brunella, who's a conservationist in the United States, he has a Meat show on Netflix, and he also has a podcast called the Meat Podcast. He's had a lady on there who was a conservationist. I'm not sure, I can't remember which state it's in. And she was doing some research on some grizzly bear, and she actually ended up getting attacked and going step by step through her encounter that she had with that grizzly. And it actually ended up mauling her, and she made it out. And if anyone has a chance to find that podcast episode, I'm not sure which one it is, what it's called, but everything I've heard as far as encounters go with people who've had aggressive encounters with anything, that one made me feel the most emotion as far as I felt for her. Although I never got mauled, I never got maimed, I honestly felt for that lady. So if you can find that podcast and check it out and listen to that lady's encounter, that's the closest I've ever had to how I felt.
That's why I was emotional for it, because you know, you felt what she was, you know, you felt what she felt. You know, you felt the same emotions that she felt there, man. So, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that, you know, being relatable.
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it grabbed her, it had her head, her skull in its jaws and crushed her skull. And she
I think so. I've heard that.
She
Yeah,
listened
yeah.
to tell the tale and got it off of her. So it's a great listen. And as far as anything that's made me feel the closest, and I have listened to several dogman encounters that people have had, that one's made me feel the closest as to what I went through as far as emotionally.
Wow. That, yeah, and like Paul said, I had heard that just not long ago, and I can't remember who told me about it, but yeah, I had heard about that, and I was like, geez, you know, that's just a lot to process and a lot to go through, and you know, it's
Well, all I'm doing is embracing, you know, this, because whether I do what I'm doing or not, I'm still going to live with the things that go on in my head every day. I'm still going to live with it no matter what.
right.
If I never speak to anybody again, I'm still living with it. Just know that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it don't go away. You don't just be like, well, I'm not going to think about it no more. I'm done. You know, it don't work like that. Not for me anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that you can turn off and say, I'm not going to think about it till next week. It's always going to be there. You know, you're always going to feel the emotions from it. And it's just, for me, what happened to me was wrong place, wrong time, wrong circumstances. you know, and those people out there that have had encounters that haven't been that bad, and they're still terrified from it. You know, I get it. I understand. You know, that changed your whole perspective on life, seeing it. I understand that. And I would never ever fault anyone's encounter or think less of them for an encounter that they've had. You know, I think that anyone who has had an encounter, it's good for them to have support no matter what. You know,
Yeah, I agree.
even if it was miles away or a mile up the road along the dirt road somewhere and they cross the road, and it impacted the way that you see life. You know, there's not enough support out there for people like that.
And you know, that's the thing, is it's not as much the encounter as much as it changed my view of the world we live in. I can be in a room full of people and I'm just living in a different world than they are. You know what I'm saying? That's the only way I can describe it. Yeah, I mean, no, I feel alone in a room full of people. You know, I'm not living in the same reality that they are, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, and like you said, you know, earlier, I don't know if I'm crazy. Well, you know, we're all a little crazy to be doing what we're doing in this field. But, you know, at the end of the day, the main goal is to get the truth. And if we can do that, then we're going to, you know, it'll be a difference made, you know, whether it be for us or somebody else who's had an encounter. You know, just talking about this stuff, like Kyle said, talking about it helps. And that's with any subject, you know. And I do believe talking about it helps. You know, going to the site after all these years, you know, wanting to get a little closure, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, you know. And whatever's going to help your mindset is, and what you think is best is what we want to help you do. And we're going to, by definitely more than 100%, try and make that happen for you.
Yeah, and you know, we're living, to me, it's a living Machu Picchu, you know, village in the sky that people was seeking refuge from, and the Machu Picchu didn't exist. That city didn't exist in South America. There was no trace of it. There was impossible. We would have seen it, seen people traveling in and out. Machu Picchu was not real. And then they found Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
You know.
And I mean, that's what I was.
You know.
That's what me and you talked about the other night when we were fishing. I mean, you know, aliens, for example. You know, 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, if you come forward and said I was abducted by aliens, or I had this or I had that, you know, the government would silence you one way or another. But now they're coming out and showing footage of UFOs, and you know, it's becoming not that big of a deal anymore. So I don't know if times are just changing or if there's a motive behind it. But if anybody that thinks that I don't know what's going on with these creatures, you know, I've never been threatened, so I can't elaborate on whether they threaten you or not. I've talked to a couple people who say that they have been, so I take them at their word. But I also hear people laugh and say that, you know, the government don't care and this and that, but I think that they do. So.
Yeah. And, you know, another thing, one last thing that I definitely want to get off my mind, and I've seen on Facebook groups, that I've seen people say that Dogman is a misidentification of a Bigfoot. But in the world that I know, from what I've seen and what I experienced, it's polar opposite. Because I've never had a Bigfoot encounter.
Right.
And I can definitely say is a Bigfoot encounter. But what I have had is a Dogman encounter. So, but I'm not going to be one of those people that say Bigfoot is a misidentified Dogman. So I think in the realm of Sasquatch and Dogman and cryptids in general, that to put a restraint on a belief that someone has seen is a negative impact.
Yeah.
So, I think that by saying that when people say that, it steps on your emotions and how you feel, and it's not good to put people in a box like that. Now, that's like I said earlier, I play with them and we run through fields together, and I put a dog leash on them and we're best friends. Now that's leprechauns, unicorns. That's different than misidentified dogman and Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And I agree, man. And I was the same way. Like I told you, I mean, I seemed like I was probably laughing at it more than I should, but it was just funny, not because, I wasn't taking it serious. It was funny because when I came in, I was the same exact way. I was just shell-shocked. I could not believe that it was being made a joke. I couldn't believe that I entered a dogman group where there were people that thought that. I thought that I was entering something super serious and everybody took this as serious as I do. And clearly they didn't, so I learned what was what just as you are, so yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them don't take it seriously, and that's what's hurting the community. It's a lot of keyboard warriors saying, I want to see a dog man, and it. Like I elaborate, man, just cryptid illiterates. That's what it boils down to.
I hate that it's like that because people want their. I know it's the internet, but.
Yeah, you gotta be able to separate the reality from the bullshit, for lack of a better word. You gotta be able to separate it from that.
We can take them to a place, and I guarantee you, within an hour of nightfall, I can make a question whether they want to know or not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't doubt that.
You don't say something to people and see if they'll tie a dog leash to them. Put teeth on them and take them where I had my first encounter. Let them hold an animal in distress call, and we'll see if they come in all hot and cuddly and want to be your best friend and play together, frolic through fields, and have little babies on their back and stuff like that. It's being like that, and I'm not trying to sound closed-minded or anything, but that kind of talk puts people in danger, especially those who are interested, because there are a lot of people out there who do want to have an encounter, as far as just seeing one, not like a point-blank encounter, but as far as just seeing one. And I understand that there's going to be people who listen and want to go out and look, and there's nothing wrong with that. But being smart about it and knowing, hey, that what someone said that might have had 100 likes, that I was with a family for 7 years, and we were it was great, and we helped each other out, and they even raised my child, stuff like that. If one person takes that serious, that one person can put themselves in danger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's the main thing, because we're not wanting anyone to get hurt, especially people that are researching it out there, or that are just getting into it. I'm not a researcher, but I don't want the information that I put out to get anyone hurt. And so I have to stand up and say, hey, what they're saying, as far as these things just being nice and cuddly, that's not correct.
Oh, no doubt.
I don't know what they're living. I don't know what these people are going through, to maybe make them think that, or what they've experienced. I'm not knocking anybody, and if people want to follow that and believe it, that's fine, but I have no desire to be in that group. It's not what I'm doing. It's just not a reality to me. You know what I'm saying? It's not, like he said, it's unicorns and leprechauns.
Yep, exactly. And I agree with that. And like I said, you got to be able to separate the reality from the bullshit. And the ones that are thinking these creatures are cuddly, I'll be straight up and tell you, it's bullshit.
I got so mad the other day, and I texted Paul. I was like, I'm thinking about talking to this admin and telling them, hey, they're going to get someone killed talking like that.
Yeah.
Paul's like, you just got to let them go on because it's their group. You have to let them, and I do like the how Paul goes about people that joins the Dogman Project. You don't see that kind of talk in there, and I respect that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all in. At the end of the day, it's all seriousness when it comes to Paul's group, my group, the group that we created together. It's all serious, all business.
Well, listen, man. Here's my thing. Just like Kyle said earlier, if somebody's a field researcher, they're out there doing this all the time, and they're in my group, they're showing you pictures, they're showing you evidence, they're giving you theories and stuff. That's the stuff I want to hear.
Right.
But if you're not, you're in a group that's based on evidence and research. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, there's people in there that just want to hear and see what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate those people probably more than they know. But it's just sharing those paragraphs of the fairy tale stuff without proof. To me, it's useless. It's. And I don't want to piss anybody off or bash anybody. That's not what I'm trying to do. But I mean, it's just not. It's a fairy tale. It's a story. You can share 2 or 3 paragraphs full of information, but when the subject of proof comes up, it becomes a secret.
Yeah.
I just can't get on board with that. It's just not something I'm willing to deal with. And I don't want real people that research get mad and
I'm not knocking those people either that are actually boots on the ground doing it. But the other ones that are putting things out there that can put people in danger, because the thing about it is that the people that join these groups, some of them have had encounters, some of them have had eyewitness, had friends and stuff that's told them stuff, and they believe it, and so they're interested in it, and so then they find out more information and they figure out it's real for themselves based on the information that they've got. And there's some groups out there that have 4,000 some odd members, and not all of them. There's some big groups out there that I've seen that do a great job, just like Paul does, moderating that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And keeping that stuff out. But then there's some larger ones like that the more people you have in your group, odds are there's a few of those people that are interested in thinking about getting out and looking. And those are the ones that are being put in danger. And I can't stand for that. Not after what I've been through. I can't.
Yeah, they're being totally misinformed.
And we're not on here theorizing whether these creatures are real or not. We're way, way, way past that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm so far past whether or not they're real or not, and showing even proof that they're real or not. And I get it. A lot of the pictures are, they are blurry. But with that being said, every picture that I upload is just destroyed. The pixels are a picture that's already hard to see is just wrecked.
Yeah.
Through Facebook or Messenger. So I've got thousands of pictures here, videos, tracks, hair, you name it, I got. And I'm just way past that. And if I was just going out to get pictures, I'm just walking in circles. You know what I'm saying? So we're trying new things, and hopefully something will pan out and pay off.
Oh, it will. We just got to keep at it. You just got to keep at it and not let all these other people who, deal with the leprechauns and unicorns discourage us, because, in my mind, if they do that, then, and we get discouraged from it, then we're just giving up on on the field, on the truth, and me personally, I ain't going to give up on it no matter what the hell anybody says. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Paul, I know you've gotten frustrated, but if I got to drive to Kentucky a week later to keep you from, saying I'm not going to do it anymore, that's what I'll do.
Well, I'm just not, I'm really picky about who I go out with. The guy Josh that I go out with, I think me and him kind of have different motives when we go out. but I still know that he's a good guy. I know he knows his way around a gun in the forest. I know if something jumps off, he's not going to shoot me on accident, so people like Kyle, people like you, Josh, them are the kind of people that I want to go out with. I can't have somebody else's safety on my shoulders while I'm trying to deal with my own safety. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I don't want somebody curl up in the ball park crying.
I would hate to drag that same subject to the mud and everything, but I mean, you guys know, based on us talking, and I mean, I consider you both friends, and you know how I stand on people saying that they're safe, and if I never sold a book, if I was never on another podcast or anything like that, that doesn't matter. If I can put some information out to keep one person out there from danger, from harm, from ending up on 411, that's
Right.
good enough for me.
Absolutely.
And I agree. I'm the same way. If one person hears us talking tonight, or watches that documentary, or sees my footage or tracks or anything, and then they decide, well, I'm gonna start taking a gun with me, or I'm gonna take a tracking device, or I'm just gonna be aware, then I feel like it was all worth it. You know what I'm saying? In my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing an expedition in October, but then I have another crew that's coming in October as well. I'm doing 2 expeditions in that same exact area as my first encounter, and that second team that's coming is talking right now with a guy who's and I talked to Paul about it, who's a big Bigfoot researcher, and he's been out and showed everything and video footage and everything, and I said, bring him on. Bring him down here. If you can get him to come, bring him down here, because I have the utmost confidence that they're still there.
And they are.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Absolutely agree.
They're in there thick. They're not just there. They're in there thick, and I mean thick. Like, a lot thicker than people than you can imagine. You know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes I'm just in awe. You can ask my girlfriend. I sit here and review this footage, and I'm like, just Jesus Christ, I can't even believe it, man. I mean, how many dog faces can you run across before it's just mathematically not? It's just impossible, man. It can't be all pareidolia.
Yeah. If it looks like a duck and sounds like a duck,
It's a duck.
Done.
Yep. Exactly. All right, fellas. If y'all got anything, y'all don't have anything else to add, we'll call it a night. I know it's getting a little late for y'all. Y'all are an hour ahead of me. And you got anything in closing, Paul?
No, sir, man. I think we covered everything really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Kyle,
I knew
go ahead.
I knew having Kyle. I knew it would be a good show, and a lot of information. So
Again, I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. I'm not a researcher. I plan on doing some stuff with Paul and going out a few times and in the areas that I've had my encounters, but I am not a researcher. So anyone out there that's coming in here thinking that I'm giving them research information, you're going to want to talk to Paul and Rick over that, because I'm not a researcher. I can tell you what's happened to me. I want to make that clear so everyone knows. I'm not a researcher. I'm just a guy who's had an encounter.
And you know what?
we make a good one, though.
Yeah, that's right. You know, and we respect that. And like I said, Kyle, you're welcome back on the show anytime. You're welcome to call me anytime. I know Paul. With Paul, hell, you get to see Paul. Lucky devil, you. But yeah, anytime, man. Call me anytime you want to talk about anything. I don't care if it's fishing, hunting. Just, man, give me a call, dude. We're friends. We'll keep in touch. And like I said, October, I'm gonna be up there for sure. And we'll try to get everything you need and everything you want out of going up there to your site, and hopefully we make it happen and everything goes well. All right, fellas.
You will.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, absolutely. I am too, man. I am too. I'm so stoked about it. And like I said, it's going to happen. I done told my wife I'm going. So just don't expect me for about a week. But
Yeah.
we're going to wind it down. Everyone in here, links are down below for Kentucky Dogman Project, which is Paul's group. Links are down below for North Carolina Cryptid and Paranormal Project, which is Tom's group. He's also one of our moderators. He's also one of our partners. And the links are down below for my groups. Check him out. Tom also has a YouTube channel that he's starting his show on. The link is also down below. Subscribe and like. We're going to be doing a show with him pretty soon. And Paul, Kyle, thank y'all for coming on. I'm gonna get back on track with the shows. Like I said, Paul wants to try and do a weekly thing. I'll do it as long as Paul co-hosts with me. I got to tweak his arm a little bit, but I'm gonna make it happen.
Well, we got we got another show that's coming out as well. But yeah, I have no problem co-hosting with you. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it sounds great to me. But there's some other things going on I don't want to reveal right this minute. You already know about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll see how things go, but yeah, man, I'm definitely down to. I like talking to people. I found out just by talking to Kyle, who's not a researcher like he said, but still, he's still full of knowledge about the research area. So in a way, he is kind of, I guess, a researcher in a way. Now, he's not a field researcher, but I would go to him. With a question, probably before I would anybody else, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, when we talked about, there are other people out there. I know there's way too many people out there that have had encounters and they haven't spoken about it. And so, just like I was, that didn't speak about it, that has sat on this for years and years and years and thought and dwelled on it, and come up with theories in their head and try to put one and one together in different locations and try to come out with an outcome of what they think happened or why they thought they were in the area or what they could be or what they couldn't be. And they thought, and it's sat on them for years. Because, as Paul said, it doesn't just go away. You can't just wipe it away and wash it off like it's nothing. It's always going to be with you. And so, by talking to some of those people, just by talking to them, then you might get a different outlook on it than what you had.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I guess you're always researching in your head,
Yeah, exactly.
Even listening to 411 and stuff like that, it's just, I'm looking for information, you know what I'm saying? I'm not here for a scary story, because I got one myself. I'm here for answers. I got a lot of questions. I might hear, David Pilotti's show is probably one of the greatest podcasts out there.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Oh,
I like his attitude. That's just, I'm that type of person as well. So
he's not putting information out there that he's not saying this is what took that person, this is what done this. He's not doing that. He's giving you the straight evidence and letting you make up your mind about it.
yes, and that's what I'm trying to do. There's a lot, like you said earlier, it's the last thing I'll say, but like you said earlier, there's a lot of people out there looking for answers, and they're dead serious looking for these answers, and it's really set with them their whole life and looking for them. And then there's people out there that are just obliged to give it to them, whether it's true or not, and that's why I started this group. You'll never hear me say something that if it's a theory, I'll tell you it's a theory. If I don't know, I'll say I don't know. And I'm not, how fast can a dog man run? I don't know. It's not how fast a dog man can run. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can tell you stories that I've heard, but I don't know. Just for an example, I'm not going to tell you information that's not true or, yeah.
Again, that's one of the reasons why I think that we connected so well, Paul, after Nick Cundiff, got us together there. It's because you're a rare breed right now.
Yeah.
That I mean, there's not a whole lot of people that are going on a podcast or thinking about starting a podcast or co-hosting a podcast that are actually in the field currently doing the research. I'm sure that I know that there are researchers out there that used to be in the field years ago that have big teams that they send to locations and stuff like that. Hey, I'm not knocking that. That's awesome that they're able to do that. They put their time in, and that's cool that they have that amount of manpower. They put their time in. They know that they're out there. But as far as what you're doing right now, it's a rare breed, and I respect that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, and I appreciate it, you know what I'm saying? But, I don't do it for fame and stuff, or money. That wasn't my goal when I started it. I really do have good intentions. I try to be an honest person, keep my word and do what I say. And there's a lot of people, like you said, out there that's, they're just, I realize that I am a dying breed. You know what I'm saying? Like, even my being a hillbilly or being where I'm from or just being an outdoorsman, that's done. You know what I'm saying? Kids ain't doing it these days.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's why I try and get my kids out there, onto the property. I don't take them near the woods, but I try to get them outdoors to where, see what the pond is, let them fish in the pond and stuff like that. Because really and truly, when I take them out there, they enjoy that more than being inside on their damn tablets or watching.
I mean, and like we said earlier, listening to David Pilates' show, having my own encounter, I'm terrified to take my kids in the woods. I won't lie. Terrified.
Yeah.
But I still do it. You know what I'm saying?
The young thing is, the way that we raised Paul is that the love for the great outdoors will always be there.
Yeah.
Because no matter what's happening in your life, love prevails everything else. You love your kids getting out, taking them fishing, and wanting them to appreciate the outdoors and not stay inside all the time.
Well,
that's
like
the right thing to do.
You know how I told you I went through a split up divorce or whatever. And a lot of people go to therapy or do whatever. Well, I went to the mountains to stay for a couple of months, and I literally stayed in the mountains digging ginseng, hunting. I mean, that was my therapy, man, and that's how I dealt with it. So.
Exactly.
Yeah, we wasn't raised around here to talk about our problems very much.
You sure right. Yeah, I don't talk about mine too much either. I've talked to Paul about a few things, but when I get like that, man, to the woods I go.
That's why I Rick, whenever you're down here, you see an old timer sitting at a gas station or a little country store having a cup of coffee. You sit down and talk to him. They'll talk to you, whatever you want to talk about. After you get to know them for a little bit, you ask them if they came across anything strange or something they can't explain in the woods. And there's a chance they may tell you a story.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them probably haven't talked to many people about it.
Yeah, that'd be cool to do up there. I mean, we got a few down here, but a lot of them don't do it for fear of being called crazy, and I understand, but there's some that will. I've talked to a couple that have, and man, it's mind-blowing. Really mind-blowing. All right, fellas, we're going to wrap it up. Paul, man, thanks for giving us your time. Kyle, you too especially. It's just great talking to y'all both. Just a big conversation, man. I really enjoyed it. I know it's getting late for y'all. And
Yeah, pizza's getting cold, so
right.
I have to get all those calories I can for whenever you make your trip down here.
I hear that.
I've been drinking coffee this whole time.
Dang. I don't know how the hell I'm still awake. I'd probably got maybe an hour or two of sleep last night, so whatever. I'm gonna go to bed here after a while though. But man, I appreciate y'all coming on. We'll definitely do it again. And you gentlemen have a good night, and I will talk to both of y'all tomorrow.
All
All
right.
right. Bye.
All right, brother. Bye-bye.
Later, guys.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Check out the links down below. If you want to listen to Kyle's Encounter, go to Dogman Encounter Radio's Vic Cundiff Show, episode 263 and episode 264. Check them out. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. And with that, this is Lieutenant signing off.